Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 18, entitled King Yayati Regains His Youth. Text 6 to 16. So I will chant 6 to 15, and together we can do, responsibly we can do 16. 6 and 7. Shri Sukha Uvacha. I will do these first verses and we'll do together 16. That's on the board, isn't it? 16 is on the board. Okay. Shri Sukha Uvacha Ekada Danavendrasya Shamishta Nama Kanyaka Saki Sahasra Samyukta Guru Putra Yacha Bhamuni Devayanya Purodyane Pushpatadruma Sankule Vyacharat Kalagitali Nalini Puline Bala. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami said, one day Rishabhava's daughter, Shamishta, who was innocent but angry by nature, was walking with Devayani, the daughter of Sukracharya, and with thousands of friends in the palace gardens. The garden was full of lotuses and trees of flowers and fruits, and was inhabited by sweetly singing birds and bumblebees. Text 8. Tajala sayam asadya kanya kamala lochana tirenyasya dukalani vijaru sanchatir mita. Translation. When the young lotus-eyed girls came to the bank of a reservoir of water they wanted to enjoy by bathing. Thus they left their clothing on the bank and began sporting, throwing water on one another. Text 9. Fiksha vrajantam girisham sahadevya vrishastitam sahassoteriya vasamsi parado vridita striya. Translation. While sporting in the water, the girls suddenly saw Lord Shiva passing by, seating on the back of his bull with his wife Parvati. Ashamed because they were naked, the girls quickly got out of the water and covered themselves with their garments. 10. Shamishta janati vaso guru putriya samavyayat sviyam matva prakupita devayanidam abravit. Translation. Shamishta unknowingly put Devayani's dress on her own body, thus angering Devayani, who then spoke as follows. 11. Oh, just see the activities of this servant maid, Shamishta. Disregarding all etiquette, she has put on my dress, just like a dog snatching clarified butter meant for use in a sacrifice. 12 to 14. Yaridam tapasa shrishtam mukam pumsa parasyaye daryate yariha jyoti shiva panta pradashitaha yanvandantyupatastishtante lokanata sureshvaraha bhagavanapi vishvatma bhavana sri niketanaha vayam tatrapi brigava Shishoshana pitasura asmaddaryam dritavati sudro vedam vivasati. Translation. We are among the qualified brahmanas who are accepted as the face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The brahmanas have created the entire universe by their austerity, and they always keep the absolute truth within the core of their hearts. They have directed the path of good fortune, the path of Vedic civilization, and because they are the only worshipable objects within this world, they are offered prayers and worshipped even by the great demigods, the directors of the various planets, and even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, the Supreme Purifier, the husband of the Goddess of Fortune. And we are even more respectable because we are in the dynasty of Bhrigu. Yet although this woman's father, being among the demons, is our disciple, she has put on my dress, exactly like a Shudra taking charge of Vedic knowledge. 15. Evam Kshipantim Sarmishta Guru Putrim Abhasata Rushashvasantyurungiva Darshita Dashta Darshada. Translation. Shukadeva Goswami said, when thus rebuked in cruel words, Shamishta was very angry. Breathing heavily like a serpent and biting her lower lip with her teeth, she spoke to the daughter of Shukracharya as follows. So please, text 16 responsively. Atma vritam avigyaya katase bahu bhikshuki kimna pratikshase smakam grihan balibu joyata. Atma vritam, one's own position. Avigyaya, without understanding. Katase, you are talking madly. Bahu, so much. Bhikshuki, beggar. Kim, whether. Na, not. Pratikshase, you wait. Asmakam, our. Grihan, at the house. Balibuja, crows. Yata, like. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. You beggar, since you don't understand your position, why should you unnecessarily talk so much? Don't all of you wait at our house depending on us for your livelihood like crows? Please repeat. You beggar. Since you don't understand your position, why should you unnecessarily talk so much? Don't all of you wait at our house depending on us for your livelihood like crows? Purport. Crows have no independent life. They fully depend on the remnants of foodstuffs thrown by householders into the garbage tank. Therefore, because a Brahmana depends on his disciples, when Shamishta was heavily rebuked by Devayani, she charged Devayani with belonging to a family of crow-like beggars. It is the nature of women to fight verbally at even a slight provocation. As we see from this instance, this has been their nature for a long, long time. Hare Krishna. So we should not be at a shortage of words to speak about the Bhagavatam or Bhagavad-Gita, about philosophy of Krishna consciousness, because Prabhupada has given us so many books of knowledge, and we have no excuse that we cannot just simply take the information that he's given us and repeat it faithfully. Srila Prabhupada said, if you do this, this will be tactful. Just repeat what I have said, this will be tactful. So there is no problem, but the problem we do have, of course, is is remembering it. We may read it, but can we remember it and recite it, repeat it? In that case, we're dependent upon Krishna. Mata smriti jnanam apohanam cha. From me come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So whether I remember or not, what I have spotted, Prabhupada said, you want to give a lecture, nice lecture, you just cram my books, repeat my words. So I'm praying that if Krishna doesn't give me remembrance, I will be at a loss. But the basic idea is that we must depend in all circumstances upon Lord Krishna for his mercy, whatever we do, because we are not the doers. We can simply desire something, but we cannot do. So it's a precarious situation to actually rely upon our own resources, to rely upon our own personal characteristics in devotional service and not depend upon Krishna. Because if we're not able to transcend the modes of material nature, eventually what happens over time is that we will become deluded. It is inevitable, and think that we are inspired by Krishna when in actual fact we're in the modes of material nature. This is and what will take place then is, of course, that we will have pride of knowledge, and this will not be very attractive. So we have to depend upon Krishna in all circumstances, and this pastime here, I just recap from what has happened. This is the history of King Yayati, how he regained his youth. So it begins with his father, Nahusa, King Nahusa, who made a big mistake, who actually he molested, he offended Sachi, the wife of Lord Indra, and because of that he was the result of that was that he was cursed by the Brahmanas, because Sachi complained to the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas cursed him to become what? We heard this is the beginning of the pastime, beginning of the chapter, it's right at the beginning. Cursed him to become a python. That was the result of that, what he did there. So that's why the sons of Nahusha took control, but the eldest son Yati refused to become king because he understood, or he didn't want to risk losing his self-realization, because he thought that if I become administrator or king, I will forget the process of self-realization. So he rejected, and therefore the second son, which was Yati, became king. And he married Devayani, and we understand how, what we're hearing now is how that marriage came about, because Devayani was the daughter of Sukracharya, and Sukracharya, of course, is a Brahmana, and Yayati is a Kshatriya. So that marriage was not sanctioned Vedically, because if the man marries to a woman who is higher than him, that is pratiloma marriage, which is not recommended in the Vedas. So how that came about was Maharaj Parikshit was curious about that, and he's asking about it, and now we're hearing about how that actually came about. how it was that Yati became married to Shamishta and also Devayani, who he was a Kshatriya and she was from Brahmanical standards. So that's where we're at right now, and in the future days we will hear the rest of this pastime, how the twists and turns and the effects of providence and what actually happens. So this is important that we should have some interest in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a very important part of our spiritual life. Nasta Preshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. That we have to hear Bhagavatam, Nasta Preshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. We have to hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly in order to overcome all the problems of conditioned life. And that's recommended, and it is part of Bhagavad-Gita. In devotional service, there are 2 parallel tracks in devotional service. There is Bhagavad-Gita, and what is the other one? Yes, Panchratrika Vidhi. There are 2 important paths. Of the 2, the most important is Bhagavad-Gita. That is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. That is sufficient on its own to perfect our spiritual life. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur introduced Archana Vidhi because of the fallen age of Kali Yuga. It is, we're not going to become purified just by hearing and chanting, although hearing and chanting is sufficient for our purification. It's not going to happen, so the Archana was introduced. But actually, Lord Chaitanya, he didn't worship of the deities. Lord Chaitanya didn't open any temples, but he brought the congregational chanting of the holy names for our perfection. But so disciples coming in the line from Lord Chaitanya emphasize book distribution as more important than the Archana. Two things must be together, but of the 2, the Bhagavad-Gita is most important. And we see right now that at least this aspect of Bhagavad-Gita is being neglected. We can tell because the Archana is wonderful, and there's so many people, devotees come to greet the deities. But how many people here are hearing class? Who is so keen in this part of hearing? Not so many. And it's not only here, it's also in other temples. Very few devotees are taking seriously the Bhagavad-Gita, which is so important, because if we don't hear, eventually we will not know why we do what we do. And everything will become like a dry ritual. In fact, not just a dry ritual, but an altered dry ritual, in which we will actually be changing things in so many ways. So the Archana was introduced because when we see the deities so wonderfully dressed, it's very attractive for people, to attract people. And of course, we know that for a neophyte devotee, for us neophyte devotees, the Archana is very nice. Kanishna Adhikari sees Krishna in the temple, but doesn't see Krishna in the hearts of every living entity, and does not know how to behave towards other devotees, does not know how to properly offer respects to other devotees, but is very faithful in the matter of the archana, the worship of deities, of Krishna. So, for them, the effect of archana is that they will become purified. We can say, we can repeat, Krishna is everywhere, Krishna is within the heart. We can say that. But have we realized that point? Yes. Have we heard Krishna, the voice within? Do we see Krishna in everything? We can say that. Prabhupada said actually it's a kind of blasphemy to say that if you haven't actually realized it. Of course we can preach these things, but it's essential that we must realize those things, and it's by the process of arjuna that we're able to become purified, to get that understanding that Krishna is within the heart and Krishna is everything. Otherwise that is the provenance of the exalted devotees. So the archana prepares us and purifies us for that vision. But it isn't the end, of course. We have to get that vision. It isn't sufficient just to do the puja, to do the pujas, and think that that is the end of your spiritual life. It's really the beginning of your spiritual life. There is that realization to come. So we don't want to get stuck on that platform of just worship. In order to become qualified preachers, we have to advance from that, and not, because our defect is, as Kanishta Adhikari, of course, is that we cannot see who is a devotee and who is not. Kanishta Adhikari tends to treat everybody nicely. Anybody that will come to the temple will be treated very nicely by a Kanishta Adhikari, will be offered prasadam. But there's no discrimination there, because Kanishta Adhikari cannot tell who is a devotee and who is not, and therefore cannot recognize spiritual happiness. So one has to advance from that platform to Madhyamarikari, where we know who is a devotee, who is innocent, we know Krishna, and we know his devotees. This is the vision of Madhyamarikari. So fulfilling the archana is very important, and to advance from that stage and not to think that we are established. We should go for the rhino, as they say. We should not be content to stop short of love of Krishna. Do not in any way fall short of Srila Prabhupada's desire for us to become lovers of Krishna, to develop tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on end and other ecstatic symptoms. We should not be happy to stay in that position of just worshipping the deities. But to understand properly the extent of archana, it isn't simply just that archana is to be on the altar ringing the bell, or offering prasadam on the altar, or dressing the deities. There is a wider aspect to it than that, because Prabhupada said if you're not everybody is competent to do that. If you're not, if you feel you can't do that, because to be a pujari on the altar, it requires some energy, it requires some finesse, it definitely requires cleanliness, punctuality, so many things. But svarkamana abhachya, that's 1846. tam abhajya, that you can be engaged, a person can worship Krishna by performing the work according to his nature. So, in the broadest aspect, archana means that under the guidance of the spiritual master, you can do maybe other things like clean the temple or whatever, cooking, and so many other things that might be prescribed by the spiritual master. You can do that, and that is also archana. And it's not that because you're just sweeping the temple that you're better than the pujari who is on the altar. That is not a fact. There is no difference. Krishna appreciates our bhakti, and there is no difference of quality there. So there is a place for us in Krishna consciousness. We don't have to. We hear a lot now. I've heard a lot recently, and it's good to encourage us devotees to do wonderful things for Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. But I heard a lot about coming out of your comfort zones, and I always cringe when I hear that, because I tried to do book distribution on the streets so many years, and it was very difficult for me. I mean, I must admit, very difficult to do that. So Prabhupada said it's not necessary that you do that. You have to come out of your comfort zone. For some really devotees who are have strong faith and Dridhavrata, possible, but otherwise just have to do whatever we can do nicely for Krishna, and that is sufficient. We don't have to do anything that is difficult for us, we should not do. It is not recommended that if a thing is difficult for us, we should not do it. It is not recommended that we do it. So whatever we can do, and we should understand that often our limitations. We cannot all aspire to be leaders of a society. Some of us have to be happy doing simple work and understanding that's our position, and that we can do that and go back to Godhead, whereas other devotees may be preaching all around the world, doing wonderful things, unimaginable things, managing huge temples like this temple here, to do which is beyond my imagination how that goes on, but so we can be empowered like that to do so many things, or not. We can be a humble sweeper. Srila Prabhupada said it's better to be a humble sweeper in the street than to be a show bottle devotee. So the recommendation is, hear the end of this pastime, hear it to its conclusion, and regularly hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Do not neglect this aspect of our spiritual life, Bhagavad Vidhi. It is so important. If all the devotees come with as much enthusiasm, they come to greet the deities, to hear class, the whole mood, the bhakti will be so much elevated for everybody. You have so many advanced devotees asking nice questions, because it's almost as difficult. Well, it's more important, or equally important, to ask good questions than it is to give a lecture. It's very important because there's a reciprocation going on here. It's a transcendental process. Someone speaks, and he speaks for the audience to understand, and they, by their questions, clarify anything that is not so obvious. And it's a transcendental process that will raise us above the modes of material nature to a world of infinite possibility and increased happiness. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. If we have any questions, please, I welcome them. Yes, Brahma.
Thank you, Prabhu. You're mentioning about follow your natures, and like Arjuna didn't want to fight, but Krishna convinced him through logic and reason this is the order he should do. But he was also capable of doing that, fighting as well. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying, I'm not a Shudra, Vanaprastha, or Sannyasi, so although we have limitations as to what we can do, what we can accomplish, but as long as one has shouldn't, like I say, disable himself. If someone said, do this, I can't do that, it's not my comfort zone to do that. So either we're servants or we start judging everything that's being asked of us.
Yes. Yes, it's a good point. That is the essence, of course, yes, to serve without motivation. Yes, whatever we're asked to do, that is the transcendental process, of course. Not that we do what we want or according to our own limitations. No, we should be actually pushed. Guru Kripa, we should actually be pushed to do more. But it is the prerogative of the Guru, is it not, to understand what is your varna and to engage you so that you can be happy. So under those circumstances, it's not such a problem. If your authority, your Guru Maharaj understands your varna, it's not necessarily a very easy thing to understand in this age, is it? Because everybody's varna sankara. We don't know where we're situated. Yes, no, we certainly don't want to limit ourselves. We should have good faith that, yes, a lame man can climb over a mountain and a dumb man can speak poetry. Yes, of course, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a wonderful class, Maytreya. When you mentioned about we shouldn't do anything that's too difficult.
Same kind of question.
Same kind of thing. It's just some further clarification, because I was just thinking, if we don't do things that are too difficult, then maybe nothing will ever get done. And the example that comes to my mind is of the Toronto temple. When Srila Prabhupada decided to get the big Toronto temple, it was a big church owned by Christians, and it was very, very expensive. And he told him a shloka at one time, get the temple. And then Prabhupada said, no, it would be too much anxiety, so don't bother getting the temple. And then Prabhupada went to the airport and he was flying. And just before he got on the airplane, he called back to Uddhava Shloka and he said, get the temple. And Uddhava Shloka said, but Srila Prabhupada, you said there would be too much anxiety. And Prabhupada said, there must be anxiety for Krishna. He said it really heavily.
Yes.
And there was a lot of roadblocks in the way that we, had to overcome in order to get that temple. But, the devotees did it and they triumphed because of Srila Prabhupada's instruction. But I just wanted to kind of ask you about that, but maybe to clarify that.
Right. Well, there's one aspect that comes to mind about that is that with the order of the Guru becomes the empowerment to do it. Maybe that's the little essence that we're missing there, isn't it? Yes. Yes, difficult thing becomes easy. Yes, Jai, thank you. All right. Thank you very much. All glory to Prabhupada.